In the recent presidential debate, candidates were asked about a very touchy subject: reparations.
Remember, we're not talking about a gift to anybody. We're talking about mending what was broken. We're talking about the generational theft of the wealth of generations of African Americans. Harms compound, just like a dollar saved in its value compounds over time. So does the value of a dollar stolen. And that is why the United States must act immediately.
Do you support reparations for African Americans?
But I wanted to get back to the issue of climate change for a moment, because I do believe this is the existential issue. People of color, in fact, are going to be the people suffering most if we do not deal with climate change.
Do you support reparations for African Americans? Do you support reparations for African Americans?
Who can deliver legislatively? That requires you to look at our records. I have a significant record of getting significant things done.
I want to hear you say your name.
I have a significant record of getting significant things done.
Do you support reparations for African Americans?
From the Violence Against Women Act to the Chemical Weapons Treaty, in foreign and domestic policy alike. And so I think asking those questions, I believe, as you'd expect, that I'm the most qualified.
Do you support reparations for African Americans?
I'm different from everybody else on this stage, and here's why. I'm running because corporations have bought our government, and we need to return power to the people.
Your name is Toby.
Do you support reparations for African Americans?
The last 10 years, that's exactly what I've been doing.
Do you support reparations for African Americans?
Listen to this.
I'm the only person on this stage who's built a large, multi-billion-dollar international business. I know how to grow prosperity.
We got to level with the American people. Don't play games with them.
Do you support reparations for African Americans?
I'm the only one on this stage who said climate is my #1 priority. It's a crisis we have to deal with, but it's also our greatest opportunity to create millions of good-paying union jobs across the country.
Listen to this.
And clean up the air and water in the black and brown communities where it's so essential. I can deliver.
Do you support reparations for African Americans?
I had many racial epithets used against me as a kid.
What's your name? Say it. Toby. Who are you? Say your name.
The average net worth of a black household is only 10% that of a white household. If you're a black woman, you're 320% more likely to die from complications in childbirth. And the question is, why am I the lone candidate of color on this stage? You know what you need to donate to political campaigns? Disposable income. A freedom dividend of $1,000 a month for all Americans. I guarantee,
listen to this.
If we had a freedom dividend of $1,000 a month, I would not be the only candidate of color on this stage tonight.
Do you support reparations for African Americans?
People that voted for Donald Trump before that aren't racist. They just wanted a better shake in the economy. And so I would appeal to them.
Do you support reparations for African Americans?
I don't think anyone can justify little kids literally woke up this weekend, turned on the TV, and saw their president calling their city, the town of Baltimore, nothing more than a home for rats.
Do you support reparations for African Americans?
In 1960, it was legal to discriminate against families of color.
And the gap
between white homeownership and black homeownership rates was 27 percentage points. But today, the home ownership gap between black and white families is 30 percentage points, bigger than it was back in 1960 when housing discrimination was actually legal. Race matters, and we need to say so.
Do you support reparations for African Americans?
And we can't be blind to the fact that the rules in our country have been rigged against other people for a long time.
We got to level with the American people. Don't play games with them.
Lord God, help that boy. They're going to whip him dead.
Do you support reparations for African Americans?
The rules of our economy have gotten rigged so far in favor of the rich and powerful that everyone else is at risk of being left behind.
Do you support reparations for African Americans?
The first generation in American history where more kids do worse than their parents.
Do you support reparations for African Americans?
The rich and powerful seem to break the rules and pay no price.
Do you support
Bailouts for
reparations
bankers
for
that
African
cheat.
Americans?
Tax cuts for companies that scam.
Do you
That's
support
what a
reparations
rigged
for African
system
Americans?
looks like. Too little accountability for the rich, too little opportunity for everyone else. These same rich guys have been waging class warfare against hardworking people for decades. I say...
Do you support reparations for African Americans?
When racism exists, the question isn't who isn't a racist, it's who is and isn't doing something about racism. And this is not just an issue that started yesterday. It's not just an issue that we hear a president that can't contemn white supremacy, eroding our nation from healthcare to the criminal justice system. And it's nice to go all the way back to slavery, but dear God, we have a criminal justice system that is so racially biased. We have more African Americans under criminal supervision today than all the slaves in 1850.
Listen to this.
We have to come at this issue attacking systemic racism, having the courage to call it out and having a plan to do something about it. If I am president of the United States, we will create an office in the White House to deal with the problem of white supremacy and hate crime. And we will make sure that systemic racism is dealt with in substantive plans. From criminal justice reform to the disparities in healthcare to even one that we don't talk about enough, which is the racism that we see in environmental injustice in communities of color all around this country.
Get out of here.
Do you support reparations for African Americans?
I support H.R. 40, which is the bill that has been proposed in Congress to establish a commission to look at reparations. But we shouldn't wait for that commission to do its work to do things that are reparative. Remember, we're not talking about a gift to anybody. We're talking about mending what was broken. We're talking about the generational theft of the wealth of generations of African Americans.
What's your name?
Toby. We're talking about the generational theft of the wealth of generations of African Americans. We're not talking about a gift. We're talking about the generational theft. We're not talking about a generational theft.
Listen to this.
And just crossing out a racist policy and replacing it with a neutral one is not enough to deliver equality.
Say it again. Say it louder so they all can hear you. What's your name?
Toby. My name is Toby.
Listen to this.
Harms compound, just like a dollar saved in its value compounds over time. So does the value of a dollar stolen. And that is why the United States must act immediately.
Toby.
Aye. That's a good nigger.
With investments in minority-owned businesses, with investments in health equity, with investments in HBCUs, and on the longer term, look at reparations so that we can mend what has been broken.
Listen to this. Listen to this.
Remember, we're not talking about a gift to anybody. We're talking about mending what was broken. We're talking about the generational theft of the wealth of generations of African Americans. Remember, we're not talking about a gift to anybody. We're talking about mending what was broken. We're talking about the generational theft of the wealth of generations of African Americans.
Cut him down.
Mayor Pete Buttigieg, he seems to be the man. He talking about reparations. Huh? Now all we got to do is get over the fact that he's got a husband. Hey, that boy talking reparations. Black folk, hey, we might let him slide. Give him a pass. Anyway, this is OG Lee, and I'll see you again soon. Damn, I couldn't have been no slave.